Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. Oh my God, I can't wait for you guys to meet this incredibly talented young lady. I know her from taking my picture and so many of y'all's pictures in Orlando. You just don't know it. This is the very talented photographer, creative artist, Ariana Saucedo.
Yes, hello everyone. So
Woo!
nice to
Okay,
be
we
on
got
your show,
that's thrilled with
Ted.
that. I don't know why I want to do, the Italian Saucedo. But
Saucedo. Anytime.
I love it. So I just love your energy. I love it whenever we're at events and I know you're there. That always means the photography is going to be amazing because you really do know how to capture people
Thank
well,
you,
and you have
thank
a
you.
great spirit about you. And I think people are afraid to have their picture taken or they don't feel like they ever look good or the lighting's not great. And you do a
Mhm.
phenomenal job. But we'll get to
Thank you
that
so much.
in a minute. Ariana, I told you before we went live that they love
Yes,
origin stories. So tell us a little bit about you.
absolutely. I love origin stories too. So for all my origin story people, just know I'm with you. But I grew up, born and raised in like a really small town called Wesley Chapel. It's in the Tampa area in Florida. And it was just like very small, very like, I don't want to say closed minded, but everyone kind of knew everyone. So it was kind of like you didn't get anything new. It was like everyone was the same, everyone knew each other. But as much as that was great because I had my people, it was also kind of like this feeling of like, I kind of felt like I was a black sheep both at home and in school and out of school. And so, being the
Why was
creative one,
that?
I
Was it because
mhm,
you knew you were different from beginning? Because creatives, I
mhm,
feel like always feel a little bit different than
absolutely.
everyone else.
Yeah, it was a kind of a mix of everything. Because I mean, at home, my mom always gave me, markers and paints and things to do art. So at home, it started off really well when you were younger, but then when you start to develop into like middle school and high school, everyone kind of has this thought process of like what that should look like as a whole, when in reality, everyone's experience is different. So being in that small town, everyone kind of saw my creativity of like me thinking outside the box and me kind of trying to look at things with different perspectives. They didn't really understand that that was art. They kind of saw it as like, oh, like, how are you going to make money from that? What does that even do? Like, how do you even do that? And so for me, I didn't know myself. I had to kind of figure it out of like how to take photos a certain way or how to paint a certain way or how to dress a certain way to give this example of like how I wanted to be perceived. So it was like really difficult for me to even find myself, let alone try and fit in with this kind of norm that was essentially given to me naturally. So it was really nice, but it was still, I still felt like kind of out of it. A lot of my friends like supported me and loved me, but they still just weren't clicking with my kind of ideas. So it was kind of hard to really explain it when you're trying to figure it out yourself.
How did you
Um,
know? How did you discover? Like you do, you're an artist all around. So
mhm.
photography obviously is how I know you. How did you
Yes, of
know
course.
that that was what you had a gift for? How did you
Hmm.
stumble into it? Did you one day pick up a camera? What was the
Hmm.
journey there?
I think it was a little bit of both. I won't lie to you. Like I said, I kind of like to do everything. I never get to pick like, oh, I really like this or really like this. So photography kind of stumbled into my life because when I was about to graduate high school, everyone gets that question of like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your life? And so I'm like, well, I don't want to do this. But what is the one thing that always stuck with me, right? And so I kind of looked upon my life as a child or whatever anyone would like to say about that, but like kind of just thought like photography was always there, whether I took pictures of my friend on an iPhone or used my friend's camera, or no matter what, like it was always something that I just felt like always stuck with me. And so when I decided to make that daring decision of like, what am I going to do, I decided to pursue photography. And that's when I really realized that that's what I love to do. And then my clients and the models that I worked with trying to grow my portfolio naturally just made it even better, because they always would tell me how much the photos would mean to them, whether it was made them feel more confident or perfect thing to hang on their wall, or just like working in front of a camera just made them feel more comfortable within their skin and in front of cameras. Like that was always what brought me light, was to see other people smile and look back and like be like, oh my God, I need to put this in a frame right now. Like this is my new wallpaper. That's the kind of like love that I love from my clients and from anyone that I work with, honestly, whether it's photography or just like as a whole.
Well, I want to tell you a story that you don't know about
Oh
you
no.
at an event.
Okay.
And we were at an event, and there were multiple photographers there, and one of
Mhm.
them was definitely in an age group that was Titanic survivor, kind of really old.
Yes.
And what I watched when that individual took a picture, he was grumpy. So the people that were
Mhm.
getting their photo taken didn't feel good. They didn't feel comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So I grabbed some of them, and I don't remember which event this was at. I grabbed some of them and I said, "Come over
Mhm.
here." And you took the pictures,
Yes.
completely different experience. And I think that that's so important to point out because I think that that is a big deal. So people who are afraid of
Mhm.
video, who are afraid of the camera, who think they've never taken a great picture before, it's really a
Yeah.
lot about the photographer and how they capture
Mhm.
you and how their aura, spirit, whatever you believe in, connects.
Right.
So I just want to give you huge kudos for that because at a
Thank you.
young age, you definitely have that ability to kind of read people and make people feel comfortable. And to me,
Mhm.
that is what being on video is about. Having these kind of interviews is about
Yeah.
taking pictures. If people feel comfortable, it shows in the video and in the photography.
Absolutely. And that's with anything too. To kind of add, thank you for sharing that. I feel like I know which event you're talking about, so I may ask you later. But yeah, I
I'll
think
tell you
being
later.
from yeah, you can tell me later, in backstage. But I think for me, like learning that, because I'm definitely a self-taught photographer. I didn't go to a traditional photography school. I do go to a media school that teaches me a lot. I go to Full Sail, so that teaches me a lot of like media things and things that are more like electronic wise, but they never taught me how to take a photo and like this is how you're supposed to do it. So I kind of found like my own niche through that and like my own style. But like even through that, like being so young and working with people who are older than me, even if it's a few years or 10 or 20, you have to kind of adapt to like those kinds of mentalities and styles that they have grown through their experiences. So when I am doing events like that, usually I also work with RTW photography like outside of school, and they have taught me so much, like learning the equipment and like how to deal with people, but also like when they kind of throw you into the fire, like, hey, you're doing this event by yourself and maybe with a videographer, you kind of have to be like, okay, well, how can I make the situation better? I don't want to think about, oh, I'm by myself, what am I going to do with all these people? So again, like with people who are maybe older, they kind of see someone like me as like, oh, she's just beginning, she's just learning and growing and things. But I always think in my head, like, as long as I go in with a smile and like you said, making that person feel comfortable and like just being like, I love your outfit, like just little conversations, little energies that you can just
Much.
spurt out at people, it will change the dynamic. Yes. And then they'll want to take pictures with you and they'll book you again and they'll want you to come. And like I said, I work with a company that has multiple photographers, and like I've had some clients just request me or request the other photographers just because they love that energy. So I think that was definitely something that I benefited from, just learning.
What's your ultimate goal? What do you want to do?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Do you
I
want to
feel
have
like
your
it
own photography
fluctuates.
studio? Do you want to?
Yeah, I think I just want I haven't decided really if I want like my own creative like photo studio or if I want to be kind of like a traveling kind of, photojournalist kind of thing. I think for me, I would really just love a space or yeah, just like a space or an environment or a mini community that would just bring enlightenment to other people. I truly love like teaching other photographers and other people how to even just talk to others and just interact with each other, learn equipment, learn like different angles and things like that. So I really just love like workshops and just again just teaching others that way. So I think my ultimate goal is just to be able to have like a community or environment where I can just grow other artists the way that I never was able to, if that makes
Love
sense.
that.
So whether
Absolutely. Because
that's
I
a
think,
studio, yeah.
well, creatives as a whole, it's an
Hmm.
interesting place to be. So whatever your creative
Hmm.
outlet is or your gift, you still have to
Yeah.
find your tribe. You have to find that group of people who support you. You've got to find that. You've got to find your
Yep.
niche and find out how to best use your talents, which I feel like you have definitely done. So you mentioned you're at
Thank
Full
you.
Sail. What are you going to
Yes.
school for?
Yes, I actually graduate in June. So June 3rd is my graduation
Congratulations.
date. Thank you so much. So I am studying media communications. It's a bachelor's of science. And so I basically learn all the ins and outs of social media, how I can create really effective media content, whether that's through video, audio, photography, graphic design, web design. So I kind of have like a little Swiss Army knife of all these different skills and things that I've learned through my degree program. And so I definitely love using that to like gain people and work with other people outside of school as well.
So we had a bunch of questions before we went live, and
Sure.
I'll start to wrap it up. I'll finish up with the question.
That's it.
People want to know. People mostly wanted to know, what is the thing that people who are having their photo taken, what
Mm-hmm.
can they do to be better at it? Is there a better color coordination? Is there a better, because what happens is you really
Mm-hmm.
do rely on a professional, and sometimes that professional has been doing it the
Yeah.
exact same way and never deviates, and so that's why people hate their pictures. So what can I
Mm-hmm.
do as a consumer when I'm talking to Ariana and say,
Yeah.
this is what I want my picture to look like? Is it good to communicate? Is it good to kind of give you an idea? What's the best way to get the best picture out of a photographer?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both sides. I'll say that, like, if my tips, I would say, let's start with be vocal about it. If you are having trouble picking an outfit, or you're trouble about a hairstyle, or trouble about makeup, or, you know, for the guys, you know, what tie should I wear? What should I even wear at all? Like, should I wear running shoes, you know, classy shoes? What should I wear? If you're struggling with the pre-production kind of side of it, definitely be vocal to the photographer, because whether it's a graduation photo or just your birthday photo, like, or just photos of you that you want, you know, sometimes, like, whether it's the location you have to have specific shoes for, or a specific time of day that you need to dress appropriately for, you know, just letting the photographer know, like, hey, like, I'm having trouble. What do you think? And usually the photographer appreciates that more, because I personally would much rather work with the client and get a good style going. So it's better for me to know what I'm going into, and for you to feel more prepared, as well as, like, instead of going to the location, seeing what you have on and kind of improvising on the spot. It just makes the time go by so much better, and it doesn't make any kind of thing stressful, because you already have spoken to me about what you're dressing like, what we're going for. And I think another tip is also to, like, remember that we're not judging you. There is no judgment on behind the camera, and especially, like, when we're out, if there's people around, like, no one is judging you. If anything, they're in awe of, like, what they're seeing. Nobody ever really sees photos being taken, you know, like, whether it's an event or even if you're doing photos on the beach, like, if people are looking at you and things, they're not looking at you in disgust. They're looking at you and, like, ooh, what are they doing? They're curious, because it's
I
really
want to
cool.
know, because most people want to have a good photo taken, and so they're
Exactly.
fascinated by it. All right, Ariana, tell them the best
Exactly.
way they can find you. How can they engage you? How can they find out more about what you do and hopefully hire you?
Yes. Ooh, yes. Well, I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Pinterest. Pinterest has all my boards for anyone that does need help behind the scenes. So Pinterest, Instagram, and on Facebook, you can find me at Ariana Raquel, Ariana Raqul. Saucedo is my government name, but and either
My
way, you can see
government
all the
name. I love
yeah,
it.
my government name. But you can see all my creative things, as well as on Instagram. You can find me under Ari Creates Art, and that's where you'll see all my kind of behind the scenes, client stories, all my portraits, and all the teams that I work with outside of you know, Full Sail and RTW.
Fantastic. All right. The one and only Ariana. Y'all need a professional photographer. And let me tell you, stop with your own selfies. No more of that crazy mall photos where you
No
got it
selfie
20 years
sticks.
ago. Yeah, we
No
don't want
selfie
any of
sticks.
that. And don't filter your whole skin away. Get with a professional. And Ariana is amazing. Ariana, thank you so much. Come
Thank you
back
so
on
much, Ted.
anytime. You're
Thank you for
amazing.
having me. I'm
I
so grateful for you.
appreciate
Thank you.
you. A good photographer can make a huge difference in your business, in your social media, and whatever you want to do. And so you want to find someone just like the talented Ariana. All right, we'll see you guys
Thank you so
soon.
much.
Reach out. Thank you, Ariana. We'll see
Of
everybody
course. Thank you, Ted.
next
Have a great
time.